Welcome to Season 3, Episode 24 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we take you back through all of human history and give you examples where people have made terrible, stunning, and really quite hilarious mistakes, and we give you lessons from those mistakes, so hopefully you don't repeat them again. But who are we kidding? We're humans, and we're suckers for punishment, I think, more than anything, as a species. Yeah. That's we've just been talking about this before the podcast, but yeah, man, do we like getting the shit kicked out of us continuously? It's like, oh yeah, more of that, please.
Indeed.
Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host Derek. Derek, how are you doing over in Arizona right now, my man?
I'm doing great. My son's back in town, home for break from school, so
nice.
He's. I haven't seen him because he's out with his friends.
Yeah,
but. It's nice having him home.
That's really cool, man. I bet he's had a really great first term, semester, whatever it would be called. Yeah. How's he enjoyed the process? Also, Toastazoid, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. Really good to see you both.
I got her thing is going to be sent out on Monday.
Yay, very excited. Yeah. Kimberly, you're getting your special surprise on Monday. Well, whenever it arrives, but it'll be sent on Monday. That's so cool. I wanted to make myself a chicken burger, but I'm all out of burger buns. That's an inside joke, Toastazoid, I think. Is it? Is that a Bonds Burgers thing? I don't know. Sorry. So yeah, your kid's back from college. How did he, when he was recanting the story, what was his overriding feelings towards it?
Okay, so they didn't have garbage disposals in the dorm, which he has never experienced before.
Oh.
Because everywhere we've ever lived has had a garbage disposal. And he's like, did you know that if you put things bigger than this down the drain, that they will clog it? And
wow.
Yeah. So garbage disposals are huge. He realizes now other people are also messy and have no idea how dishes got dirty.
Yeah, that's a rude awakening.
And being away from his girlfriend for the first time now with a serious relationship, he's getting the full grown-up experience, all just bam, bam, bam.
Only he doesn't fully have the experience to be able to handle it just yet, I'd imagine. So it's like, oh wow, this is really hard. Holy shit.
He's handling it like a champ though. He's doing really well, and he got straight B's this term.
Nice. Good foundation.
He admitted, I slacked, I'll do better.
So,
I think he did great.
The idea of constant, I know, I was like, this thing of everyone has to get straight A's all of the time. It's I didn't get straight A's. I've got 2 university degrees and I didn't get straight A's. I put in the effort I needed to get a good grade and enjoy the experience. And that's fine. I got a 2-1 in university both times. And that's a, you did really well. It's B's, basically.
The thing about it that I don't think anybody talks about, sorry to cut over you, is actually learning something, not the grade that you get.
Yeah.
The material that you retain, the information and the perspective that you gain from the education that you're getting, I think is the important part. And we all forget about that.
I totally agree. I didn't enjoy school for a number of reasons, not just the bullying and fucking horrible atmosphere, but university I thrived. I was able to go to a gigantic library, or in both like universities I went to, giant libraries, and just like read stuff that is like tangentially related to the subject I was studying. And I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense to me. And suddenly I'm discovering like this stuff that works in my brain. And yeah, Tosazoid books. I feel like there needs to be Matt Berry in there. So I books. Yeah, it's quite a good thing to like have that part of your brain woken up by an experience. It's a really enriching thing. Knowledge. And yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad that he's getting to their one final one, enlightenment. So I'm really glad he's getting to do that. But man, coming home, holidays, Thanksgiving, that must have been. How did you find that?
Well, we had a good time. We went out to the far land with the whole big family, had a good dinner and conversation, and good company, got some pictures and whatnot, and then I didn't see him the rest of the day. He spent the night with his house and came home Saturday.
That's great. Good for him. He's enjoying it. You know, those days. Oh, those halcyon days when I was young and my liver still liked me. Yeah, I think that's there. And I do say this to people like younger folks in their early 20s when they join, you know, the company I work for, and when I'm hiring them, I'm like, you know, if you have this opportunity now to see the world and experience life a bit more, I would really recommend doing it. I did it. You know, I traveled all across the east coast of the States when I was like 19 and saw the Mediterranean and Italy and all of these beautiful countries, and I had nothing to tie me down. And I had the time of my life. I mean, yes, I did it on a shoestring, but actually that sometimes makes it more fun in a way, you know?
I think it gives you more of a perspective on the actual meaning of life, like getting out there, experiencing things, seeing people and humans and what they're doing, and experiencing life instead of, you know, consume, die, grow, consume, die. That's what everybody seems to do these days.
That's basically, yeah, that's it. Oh, totally. Thank you for mentioning we don't have the little hints about who we're covering. I'm not sure why that's not showing up. Let me just change some stuff out. I don't know why that's not showing up for me. That's really annoying. Edit audio avatar. Oh my god, this is so confusing. Save. It's not oh, there we go. There we are. Now we've got the little thing. So I'm talking about our politicians, our schema, and Derek is discussing a brutal hockey enforcer. Before we get into that, because I've forgotten the call to action again, I would like to give a big shout out to our patrons, Andrew Zavara, Kimberly Johnson, Kimberly, who's with us. Thank you so much, Kimberly, and Jesse Christ. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on LinkedIn. It means the world to us. Kimberly, we've got your special treat coming out to you on Monday. And if you guys would like to join them in sending us a little bit of money to help make our lives easier and hopefully eventually make this a full-time gig, which we would really love to do, go to patreon.com/history's greatest idiots, where you'll have access to behind the scenes stuff. You'll have access to scripts, a bunch of really interesting posts, and eventually some original content, which we'll try and get around to, plus all of the videos, which we don't have on the YouTube site. So while we're on the subject of that, you can find us on YouTube if you search for History's Greatest Idiots. And if you want to follow us on Twitter/X, because all of the people want to what is it about like famous social media and world leaders and the obsession with X thing? Is it because they all watch porn too much? Maybe.
Maybe. It could be with Elon, definitely.
With Elon, it's almost certainly porn. So if you go to Twitter/X, we're there on at Greatest Idiots, and on Instagram we're at History's Greatest Idiots, and you can talk to us and share things with us, and yeah, just follow us and subscribe in the various platforms you listen to. Derek, so brutal hockey enforcers. Now, there's actually been a big thing about this in the UK recently. Big story coming out of the UK. Don't know, you probably you did see this. A Nottingham hockey player died because of a blade around the neck. Like, he got his carotid artery cut in a blading accident, and the person who caused it, who I don't know the name of and probably shouldn't repeat it because, you know, they need a fair trial, has been arrested on manslaughter charges.
I saw that, and then I also learned that you guys in England don't release the name and all of the information and the whole case and stuff before the trial.
That's right.
Which, wow,
Yeah, until
it's
someone has either entered a plea of guilty or been found guilty, that name is generally not released to the press.
which is funny because like most of the time here, people they get their name in there, everything they say they thought they did, all the evidence that's going to be presented against them, that all goes out, on the news and in the paper, in advance of the trial.
That's kind of crazy. I do know that one thing I don't like, one practice in this country, is that when people are found guilty of, or because sometimes if it's a high profile trial, they do release the names of stuff beforehand and it's in the paper, but there's no live TV coverage ever. It's just like documented in newspapers and stuff. They say so and so of such and such road, this town. I think that's inappropriate. You can't be releasing people's fucking address when they're on trial for serious stuff, because it almost encourages vigilantism.
A little bit.
Yeah. It's a little bit scary. But yeah, so that's the thing that's going on right now with hockey. And obviously I'm aware it's a violent sport, but the levels of violence kind of vary depending on people's roles. And there's almost like an agreed level of violence, I think, in hockey, like this person took this person out, we're going to get retaliated against, and this is probably the form it's going to take, But tell me about the enforcers, because they have a really specific role in hockey, and I'd really love to know more.
They definitely do. And like one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you've seen it. It's got Stifler in it from American Pie.
It's Goon.
Yeah.
That is a really good film. Like surprisingly, it's one of those things like Tucker and Thingy versus Evil, or whatever it is. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's one of those films that not many people have really seen a huge amount of, but it's really underrated. But Goon, and I think it's got a sequel as well.
Yep.
That's a really good film. I would highly recommend anyone go and watch that, even if you don't like hockey. It's just a good character study, I think. So yeah,
I enjoyed that one. It's and if you like seen Canadian humor, Shoresy on Hulu is hilarious for hockey. Cool. Anyway, we haven't covered anybody from hockey yet, right?
No, I don't think we have. No, we've done baseball, done NFL, a few other American sports, a lot of soccer, a lot of wrestling, but no one from hockey, I think.
Okay, well, I want to tell you about what some people say is the scariest man in hockey. He was born Link Gaetz on October 2nd, 1968 in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I really couldn't find much about his early life, so I'm going to assume that it was just like everybody else's. It was all fucked up and traumatic. Normal, completely normal.
Completely normal, little bit more kind of pancakes and syrup in there because he's in Canada.
Yeah, a lot of syrup.
Definitely. A lot of syrup.
And beer.
So much. Maple syrup, yeah, for sure.
It's so much beer. So he's selected by the Minnesota North Stars in the second round of the 1988 NHL entry draft ahead of Mark Ricci, Tony Amonte, and Rob Blake. Gaetz allegedly showed up to the draft with 2 black eyes and a case of beer.
Wow. Classy.
Yep. The North Stars GM at the time had this quote to say about his pick in the draft. He said, "In the first round, we drafted Mike Modano to protect the franchise. In the second round, we drafted Link to protect Mike. And in the third round, we should have drafted a lawyer to protect Link."
That's a great quote.
Yeah, and it's super spot on because 4 months after being drafted by the North Stars, Gaetz was arrested for drunk driving.
Oh, shit.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed up with a case of beer and 2 black eyes to the draft, so whatever. But while he was in the minor leagues, one night while he was in Brainerd, Minnesota, according to another minor league hockey person that was there with him, Tony Twist, he said, Link got a hold of a motorcycle and a pistol, and when the bike ran out of gas, he started walking. He passed a church, shot out the stained glass windows, but was all pissed off because he was aiming for the bell.
Oh, my God.
The result from that was he was arrested for carrying a firearm without a permit, convicted for disorderly conduct, and he spent 3 days in jail.
3 days? Wow, he got off quite light there. That's like...
It's Minnesota in the 80s.
That's true, yeah. That's common, I guess, yeah.
He was hunting.
Shooting up churches,
He was hunting.
Right, yeah. Thought it was a deer.
Yeah.
Giant brick building. Like, it fucking moved. Like, I saw the tail flinch. No, that's the bell. That wasn't the tail.
In my defense, I was drunk.
Yeah, in my defense, it's Minnesota and I'm drunk, so
and then I guess there was the time when Tony Twist was playing for the Peoria Rivermen, and they hosted Link Gaetz's Kalamazoo Wings. Twist was already heading home when he noticed the TV smashed in the front window of the Hotel Continental Regency, and then there was a hole in the 4th floor window of that same hotel. So I guess depending on who you believe, Gaetz was either upset about being thrown out of practice, or in the police's version, he was annoyed that he couldn't open his window at the hotel, so he threw the fucking TV out of it.
Okay, yeah. Either way, kind of weird. But yeah, like, you can't open your window. You call down to the front desk and they send someone up to fix it, right? That's how normal people handle shit in hotels.
Yeah, well, and I mean, most hotel windows in the upper floors don't let you open the windows these days anyway,
that's
right?
True. Yeah, that's true. I had a similar thing in stayed in a hotel in Brighton years and years ago with my wife, and it was actually the hotel that the IRA bombed trying to kill Margaret Thatcher. But I was in a room and I was like, I can't open my window, and it was November, but they turned the heat up to like 95 degrees. And I was like, I can't breathe in this room and I can't open my window. And they're like, yeah, that's for safety reasons after the IRA bombing. I was like, yeah, but they're not going to do it now, and I'm not Thatcher, so can you send someone up to fix the window, please? And they literally did. They sent like a handyman up, and he opened like the kind of sealed latches so that I can just like raise it. I was like, I don't want to open it hugely. I just want to get like 3 or 4 inches of space so that I can get a bit of airflow in here. He was like, totally understand it. And he was like, and I was like, while you're there, can you fix the light in the bathroom, because that shit doesn't come on and I don't like pooping in darkness. So
you're not a bear.
I know, like, I'm paying £195 a night for this fucking hotel. Can I at least get a bathroom light? Jesus.
Wait, are the woods dark? Because bears shit in the woods, right?
Bears shit in the woods, yeah. But they got good vision. I have macular degeneration like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, so wow, that's one way of handling it. Throw a fucking TV through the window. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess it made sense to him. But most of his stories, though, or most of the stories about Gaetz have like this darkness, but a sad twist of humor to him, where he's just kind of just a little bit unhinged, kind of like Romanowski in some ways, a little bit less violent, a little bit more funny, but sad kind of funny.
Right. Yeah. Not like what a scamp, like there's a darkness there.
Yeah. In one interview, there's this story about an arrest of Link Gaetz that stemmed from a time when he was collecting this $900 from an old roommate, right?
Okay.
He couldn't get the money, so as you do, he stole the man's television. He's got a thing with TVs. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if he's his landlord, he's trying to get payment and stuff. But wow, that's really fucking weird. Just call. Why is he not doing the basic shit? Like, call the guy.
It gets weirder.
One of his mates. Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
When the cops showed up, they asked him if he'd left a Mr. Hanky, if that was him that had left the Mr. Hanky on the roommate's bed, and he said yes. I pissed on the couch too.
Why do you wouldn't know? This fucking guy.
Because that's the guy he was.
Wow. Shitting on the bed wasn't far enough. He's like, and I'm going to piss on the couch in case he tries to sleep there. What the fuck, man? This feels like a story from the Chappelle Show. With Dave Chappelle playing this person, like, shit on the couch, like, what the fuck? is
He's
wrong.
the Rick James of hockey.
He is. He fucking is. It's so weird. Please carry on. Did he get arrested for that? Because is that like vandalism? Or...
Yep. Yeah. He spent a little time for that one as well. But he got out in time to go play some hockey. He played for 2 years in the Minnesota North Stars system. He came up to the NHL. Put that tongue back in there. He played for the NHL for 17 games, fighting some of the league's heaviest hitters like Red Wings' Bob Probert and Joey Coker. The Bob Probert fight, though, is a brutal fight that's all over the YouTube if anybody wants to go check that out.
Ooh, fun.
Kicks the hell out of him. So, yeah, I guess tapes of that match is a collector item still today in the stores. I don't know why I have that in there. I told you I haven't read this one since last week. Sorry.
That's fair.
Minnesota kind of got tired of his shit, though, and in San Jose picked him up in 1991 in the expansion draft, and he became the town's favorite because, like, he's a dark character, but he's got a really big heart.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of another odd thing about him. He inspires fan loyalty and affection. Even though he's got enemies, he's got a surprising number of people that really love him.
Kind of like the I was going to say that drug lord down in Colombia, where a lot of people hate him and want him dead, but actually the people in communities that he supported loved him and would go to any lengths to protect him.
Why am I drawing a blank on that now?
Yeah, it's
all I can think is El Chapo, and it's not the right one.
No, it's like the precursor to El Chapo, the 80s. His name was everywhere. Anyway, but someone will put it in the chat. Hopefully, someone will remember. Escobar, thank you, Toasterzoid. That's exactly who I was talking about. Yeah, silver or lead. The choices you had with him. So, yeah, really detested by a lot of people, including the CIA and people like that, but also loved by the communities that he kind of looked after and paid to install education systems in and stuff like that. So yeah, you get that sometimes with dark people. They do have kind hearts, and they will have people that will support them through anything. So that's interesting.
He always had time for children to come up and get autographs. He would like break away. Media, not so much necessarily. He was a good guy and a hell of a goon. Overall, he accrued 3,301 penalty minutes over his career. That's almost 15 years in the league, all around North America, in Canada and the United States.
Wow.
He left a path of blood and destruction on and off the ice, including a whole bunch of 911 calls for shooting churches and shit, like I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my spot.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. So he also... Damn it.
It's okay. Don't worry. Take your time. I'm kind of wondering what else could happen with this guy at this point, because shooting up a church, 3,000 minutes in the penalty box. Where do we go from here? Yeah.
Well, he had a real shit thing happened on April 2nd of 1992. Right. He was thrown out of the passenger seat of a Camaro that was driven by his friend Patrick Bell.
Oh.
Bell was later charged with driving under the influence because he had lost control on the off ramp at 80 miles an hour.
Oh my God. Who fucking does that? I guess he's drunk.
Drunk person driving a Camaro.
Jesus.
Yeah. Gaetz ended up at the Pennsylvania hospital with back and facial injuries. He was semi-comatose for 8 days.
Jesus.
His mother flew down from Vancouver and heard doctors saying her son might die. He had a brainstem injury, and when he woke up, his left side was paralyzed.
Oh my God.
He had no memory of the accident. He left the hospital after 6 weeks. And over the next 2 months, he worked with therapists to regain his movement and his speech, and totally blew the doctors away and was walking and started by that summer skating twice a day. So
that's crazy.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
He took his goonness and put it towards, I want to get back on the ice and be a goon. And
that's so amazing, that level of recovery. And, you know, we're talking early 90s now. This isn't the kind of era where, oh, we need to speed up your recovery. We'll give you stem cell treatment or whatever it might be, or we'll go in a barometric chamber and you'll get full oxygen treatment and all that. He recovered under his own steam using early 90s technology. Fuck.
Yeah, well, and early 90s technology it was. Several months after he was released from the hospital, he was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol.
Fucking hell.
On September 10th, 1993, the Sharks general manager Dean Lombardi traded him to the Edmonton Oilers for a 10th round pick in the 1994 NHL draft. And he never played in the NHL again because at 23, he went from an NHL star to a minor league lifer. He still played for a whole bunch of seasons.
Sure.
He was dropped by 3 teams over the next 2 seasons before landing in Nashville. And from there, he found himself playing in a whole bunch of different cities in a whole bunch of different leagues all over Canada and the United States. And in one of those cities, during one of those games, he got hungry. And while he was playing the Thetford Mines in Pro Lab for the LNAH on March 13th of 2005, when he was playing for the Verdun Dragons, he just didn't play the first or second periods. He instead took off his gear and went to the concession stand and bought himself a hamburger and ate it. And that earned him a reputation as one of the quirkiest athletes in pro sports.
Yeah.
And it also pissed off the team that he was playing against because they thought that it was super disrespectful, and then he was suspended for the rest of the season.
Oh, shit. I mean, man was hungry. You know, what you going to do? Days before delivery services? Really?
Yeah.
So you can't get something caught ice side at that point. Trying to think of the word there, rink side. Yeah, that's weird. So I just have a couple of things. First thing is like an anecdote, and the second one is a question. So anecdote, you were talking about food consumption. So just a random story about this. In the early years of the Hulkamania era in wrestling, so kind of mid-80s, there's a wrestler called Don Morocco, and generally television matches back in those days would be an established star against a local jobber who would just get in and get battered, and it was basically a showcase of the main star and to make them look strong. And there was a Don Morocco was he was quite a good wrestler, but he was getting on a little bit now, and he needed to make himself stand out. So in this televised match, he came down to the ring with a full meal. So he had a hero sandwich, he had a can of Coke and like a bunch of like Pringles, and his manager, Captain Lou Albano, very famous, like in the Cyndi Lauper videos and stuff. Yeah. Lou Albano was hated, by the way, not like we'll boo you because that's what we're supposed to do. But like, people were calling him a fat fucking slob and horrible stuff like that. People hated Lou Albano when he was a heel. Anyway, like Don Morocco would pick the guy up for a body slam and then just walk over to the corner, and like Lou Albano would be feeding him chips, and he'd throw the guy. And then at one point he picked him up for a pile driver, but walked over to the corner in the crouch position, which is very difficult to do. And Albano picked up the sandwich, and Don Morocco took a massive bite out of this fucking hero sub with meatballs and stuff, and then pile drove the guy while consuming the sandwich and pinned him for 3, count of 3. The crowd, of course, are no longer taking this seriously, because even for professional wrestling in the mid-80s, that's fucking stupid. But the weirdest part came when Albano got in the ring and, you know, celebrated with his charge, held his hands in the air, and like gave him some Coke to drink from the can. And they're walking, and Albano's still got the food. He's juggling this food, and what's his name? Don Morocco is just like covered in like grease and like bits of sandwich at this point as he's walking down. He's like smiling, the audience are laughing, and a fucking solitary meatball falls out of the sandwich, rolls down these metal steps. Albano steps on it, goes fucking flying, and the crowd lost it. And Albano, of course, being the professional he was, he got up and was like, "What are you fucking laughing at me like this?" It was just, when you said like he was eating during a match, like pictured what actually happened. You can watch that on YouTube. If you Google Don Morocco sandwich match, you'll see this weird thing happen where he's eating a sandwich, and even the commentator's like, "Oh, Don must be really hungry today. Yeah, that looks like a really nice sandwich. Where do you think we can get that sandwich from?"
Oh, geez.
It's a whole conversation. But so that's like, I love that he did that. Like that's the kind of thing I would do. I'm like, fuck this, I'm starving. But I had to ask because, I know that a lot of American sports are really well paid. Baseball players, NFL guys get like tens of millions of dollars a year, some of them, and NBA guys, huge endorsement deals. Hockey, I guess, is well paid. Probably, your Wayne Gretzky's and all of that of the world have probably made a lot of money from endorsements and wages. When it comes to minor league hockey, what kind of money are these guys making if he was there for years and years?
Gosh, I think enough to eke by a meager living. I think probably you're talking just above minimum wage level stuff.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
bad.
And this is in the 90s. I don't imagine they're making more than like minor league baseball.
Really?
And minor league baseball is like below minimum wage a lot of the time.
Holy shit. So they do it for the love of the game, really. And maybe for the hope of
getting back.
Getting back up there, maybe sponsors looking after them, like patrons kind of thing, just throwing them a bit of money here or there. That's shocking, actually.
I mean, to be fair, at this point, now that I've figured out life, I would rather, if I'm going to be broke at the end of every week, I'd rather do something that I love and be like, fuck it.
Same, man. Like my wages have gone up, quite well over the last few years. I'm still probably getting paid a little bit below, quite a bit below what I deserve for the level of work I'm doing. But like, because of the cost of living crisis over the last year and a bit, like my money is gone by the end of the month. Like I have nothing. So yeah, it is getting harder and harder to justify that. It's like it was like, oh yeah, things are difficult, but at least the money's good. I'm like, no, the money's fucking going straight away. Like fucking £7 for a goddamn sausage roll. Like what the fuck? So yeah, it's weird, but I guess like doing it for the love of the sport is one thing, and I guess after that, like you can charge for autographs to a certain extent. You can do conventions and you can get paid in other ways. Like you can show up to people's events and parties and do stories and all of that.
So if I can feed and house myself by playing a sport and doing something that I enjoy, I'm going to do that. Like,
hell yeah.
That's an option.
Another option, Tosazoy pointing out, cannibalize the rich, and that's not a metaphor. They taste awful. I've tried it. The Dutch did it once. Yes, I'm aware of the Dutch, and actually, let's not talk about the Netherlands right now. They've had a really fucking bad election result. They've elected a clown who literally looks like a fucking clown. So
does he got the red nose and everything?
Almost, yeah. He was banned from entering the UK once because he was so racist. They're like, no, we can't let this guy talk, and now he's their prime minister. So, and this is the UK, a deeply conservative country. We're like, we don't want you here. You're awful.
Spreading, eh?
I know, it's scary. And Argentina as well, who've also elected a fucking clown. So we're going to get attacked by these people, this podcast now, for saying that. But, anyway, it'll all be over in the UK soon. We'll be electing someone that isn't a Tory. So this guy's done the minor leagues. He's doing it for a long, long time. And he's kind of going from team to team.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that right now. And his itinerary, it reads like fucking Spinal Tap gone wrong. It's Cape Breton in Nova Scotia to San Antonio to Mexico City to Madison to San Francisco to Anchorage to Toledo to Fresno to Saskatchewan. I said it right.
Wow.
Had a little trouble in Miramichi, and then he was in Quebec, and then he ended up in San Antonio playing for the Iguanas in 1995, where he was tossed in jail after yet another brawl. The next morning for this one, though, he had a female judge, and she asked him his name, and he said, it's right there on the card you're holding, because he was linked Gaetz. And she was annoyed, so she set the bail at $10,000, and he said, why don't you make it $100,000, bitch? And
oh, my God.
So she did. And then he spent the next 10 days in jail.
Idiot.
Uh-huh. And then... in another unhinged fiasco, after a night of partying there in San Antonio, he took a house full of terrified visiting players from the Knights, hostage using only the sheer force of his personality. So he's drunk and boisterous and out of control and not letting people leave. And so they call his coach.
Right.
And so then Link opens up the door with a beer in his hand. And coach is like, come on, let's call it a night. He grabbed the beer out of Link's hand. And
oops.
Yeah, that's when he blows up. They go toe to toe. They're rolling around the living room, breaking tables, tumbling over couches. The cops show up. Off Link Gaetz goes to jail again.
Oh my God, this guy. I have a bit of a thing here, right? So an entire team of people were held hostage by one guy who wasn't armed.
Oh, it's huge.
I feel like if there's 7, 8, 9 guys, and this one, like 4 of you take him out. Like, I don't care how fucking big you are.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. That sounds weird.
Maybe they just they didn't want to actually hurt him or kill him or anything. It wasn't like that sort of hostage. Maybe
right.
I don't. It was like an uncomfortable hostage. Like
okay, right.
You know, when somebody guilts you into staying somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I see. The thing is, I don't do that anymore. I just tell them to fuck off and leave. I've been in situations before where, and this happens. This is not comparable at all. But if we're out walking, and sometimes you bump into people who are clearly a little bit lonely, and they've got a dog with them, and they start engaging you in conversation, and I can spot it coming a mile away because I know what's going to happen. They're going to have this rambling, unconnected conversation with me and my wife, and it's going to be 20 minutes of me standing around in the cold, listening to this incoherent bullshit because they're so lonely. They just want to talk to someone who's out walking their dog, and it's fine. And we had that today, and almost. So this person, I could see it. I was like, there's something. He's eyeing up the dog. He's eyeing us up, and he was like, "Oh, I really love your dog." And I said, "Thank you so much. It's really lovely to hear." And I linked my wife's arm. We walked really fast, and it wasn't an impolite thing. I was like, our car's going to get locked in this fucking car park in 25 minutes. We cannot afford to talk to this guy right now. Plus, I need to take a massive shit. So, sorry. As much as I want to be polite, I don't want to have this conversation at the end of November when it's freezing fucking cold. I appreciate some people are lonely. He'll find someone else to talk to who isn't in a rush like us and who isn't a prick like me. Like there's just no way I'm going to have those conversations, I'm afraid. So no one takes me hostage anymore. I tell them to get the fuck out of my way and I leave because I have better stuff to do.
It seems fair.
Yeah.
It seems fair.
I'm too old to sit and be at the whim of your ridiculous ranting and conversations. I just leave. So
yeah. Unfortunately, nobody can usually trap me out. No strangers anymore, because anytime I'm out in public, I've got my earphones with music on, or sometimes nothing on, and I'm like, I can't. I'm on the phone.
Yeah, I literally do that. Yeah, I'm like, I will just walk away, but actually, I should probably have my earbuds in so I could be like, I've just got a call. Bye. Sorry, gotta go. Take this emergency. Yeah. So anyway, so he took these guys hostages, got into a fight with his fucking manager, and they got thrown in jail again.
Well, just the drunk tank, because he comes home back at 5 o'clock in the morning and he wants to fight again, but the coach turned him away. And then 8 o'clock in the morning, he comes back and wants to go to breakfast because that's how Link is. That's how he is. He was just blackout drunk.
Sure.
And
people get hungry after being that drunk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He could fill up the arenas with his fighting, though, and he was running out of teams that would gamble on his absences and escapades, though. Right. And obviously his erratic behavior was becoming a problem. He was bouncing around all over the place. He started moving further and further north, and the teams that he was playing for started getting smaller and smaller. A year and a half went by. He stopped for a traffic violation in Woodstock in New Brunswick. The cops discover he's got a warrant out for this incident. Remember when I mentioned he had this brush with in Miramichi?
Yeah.
Well, he left a bar with another player from another team who ran his mouth, and so he rearranged his face and threw him in a snowbank and left him there.
Jesus, that's really bad.
Yeah.
That's like, we call it grievous bodily harm. Actual bodily harm in this country. I don't know if there's a similar thing.
Yep. Yeah, well, he spent the next 4 months in prison.
Oof.
He got in 6 fights while he was there.
Of course he did.
One of those fights was against 3 inmates at the same time.
Oh, God.
So that's kind of the way he was. And when I say he was huge, he stood 6'3" and weighed 240 pounds when he was in shape.
Oh shit! Wow,
when he
so
wasn't
he's a big dude,
270 pounds.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
That's a big weight gain. And is that from? I'm assuming that's beer weight as well, which is like difficult to move.
Yeah. He moved quick for a large dude, and I think that's how he ended up taking some of those people hostage with his personality. You know, he played for 24 teams over his career in hockey. He sometimes was banned from entire leagues.
Oh my God.
And for a while, he was banned from the entire country of the United States.
Wow.
Well, when he was in prison, he was kind of banned until 2007, actually, while he was on probation for the assaults and things.
Yeah, well, that's insane. Wow.
According to anybody he's ever played against, or some that have played with him, he is the meanest and scariest player to ever be paid to skate.
Wow.
So he's one of 3 former NHL players to take part in the Battle of Hockey Enforcers, which was a made-for-TV event where they like beat each other up for money on TV.
What the fuck? That's insane. That's like something from a kind of a terrible apocalyptic future where rules no longer apply. We've got this game show now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing back in 2005 where they had these hockey enforcers from different minor league teams that matched up against each other in full equipment, like they were in a game time matchup, only they just beat the hell out of each other. And his first matchup was against Steve Reed from the Sherbrooke, God, French. Saint Francois.
Wow. Yeah.
Link Gaetz actually went down twice in the opening round of that fight. Yeah. And he didn't participate after that because he had concussion-like symptoms.
Oh, right. Okay. And they had concussion protocols back in 2005. Holy shit. That's good.
And especially for like hockey fighting, and I mean, minor league hockey fighting is where the fighting happens. Like NHL fights are like not so much. Minor league hockey fights are insane. Which that hockey player that died, I don't know the stuff that was going around. Like, did he get like accidentally clipped? Or like, do you know more about that?
I haven't read a lot into the story. I think it was not a fight. So it was like an incident that happened possibly due to negligence or something like that, and that's why he's been arrested. But like, I'd really need to read more into that, because hockey in the UK it's not a high profile sport. It's not as I mean, there's a lot of passionate people that go to the games, but it's not like a big, well attended event like it is like in the NHL. Sorry, So I don't think it was malicious, but I mean, it sounds like the kind of thing that this guy might have done had he probably gone a little bit too far. But yeah, wow.
Some definitely could have been something. In 2012, he was charged with assault and causing a disturbance after an incident at a fast food restaurant in the community of Catch Creek in April of 2012. And that complaint got thrown out because the person that was involved in that died in a drowning accident a little bit later on in that year.
Jesus.
And that's the last I can find on it. Link Gaetz, the scariest man in hockey.
So it sounds like he hasn't really calmed down.
He's out there and about somewhere, just living his life now.
He's lurking.
Hockey's missing link.
Yeah, that's a great name. He's essentially Jason Voorhees without the machete at this point. He's just sort of wandering around looking for fights and getting arrested. And wow.
And he was like a myth when he was in the minor leagues. People were scared and was like, "Oh shit, that guy's still playing."
Wow.
Oh, God.
That's yeah. I guess that's like part of the mystique and aura. I don't know how it works because hockey's a hard game, but I guess because you're on ice. People don't really slow down. It's not like a highly. I mean, obviously there's aerobic workouts involved in it, but like when it's soccer, you see people lose like 2 yards in pace when they hit like 32, 33. Like they slow down physically, whereas I don't know if it's different in hockey. Maybe he could have played well into his 40s or something. So
I think you lose explosiveness, but sure. I mean, if you could still fight,
you can still fight. Like 270 pounds as well. Like that's a big fucking dude. It's such a weird one because I would love to know what started this guy, because we know from the NFL guy you covered, who was really nasty with it. Seems to have been like something happened in his childhood, and also a teammate maybe suggested he get a bit more aggressive, and he took that too far. This guy just seems to have come out of nowhere and been a very violent person. I wonder if like the concussions and the violence have maybe begotten more violence because like the brain trauma that he's maybe had over the years, and if that's affected his behavior at all. But man, he is the new Jack of hockey, only without the nastiness, really.
He didn't stab anybody so much, but he did put a lot of people in the hospital.
He did. And this is the thing I always wonder about people like this, because there's always people like this in sports who are like characters that maybe not quite as good as they could be had they applied themselves, but they develop a reputation based on some attribute, whether it's like their toughness or their leadership skills or their mental attributes. Like some people are really like students of like whatever sport it is of their game. They may not have the physical gifts that someone does, but they can anticipate, or they can like think a few moves ahead of whatever it is. Was this guy a good player is my question. Like, other than being a guy who could fight, was he a decent hockey player?
I mean, he was good at what he did,
right?
As an enforcer, as like he could skate, he could fight, and like I don't know that enforcers can shoot. I mean, they can all handle the puck, and they all have to have some sort of like stick control. Sure. But I mean, I don't know. I stopped paying attention to hockey after the North Stars moved to Texas.
Right. Okay. So he's no Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky, like those kind of
no
big name guys. Okay. It's a difficult one because, like you say, like he had a kind of heart to some people, apparently, and yeah, you do meet people in sports and in the real world that are kind of bastards, but actually do have a good heart for certain people or causes or whatever it might be. You know, you could know some really terrible people, and actually, when you look at their track record with charitable donations, actually they're quite good. And not that he was bad. George Michael was not a bad guy. He was actually a really nice guy, but he kept very quiet about his charitable donations, and it only came out after he died that he'd given away like tens of millions of pounds to multiple charitable foundations that he just donated under his real name, which was Georgios. It was like a big long Greek name, but he donated, and he didn't tell anyone about it. And it only came out after he died that he'd like barely paid any taxes because he'd been donating all of this money to all of these like really good causes and charities and stuff. So kind of like he gets more points or less points, I guess, for being like good with kids, signing autographs, being personable, and like, you know, just being generally a decent guy. But there's some rage inside this guy that probably stopped him from being the player he could have been had he like channeled that. Because there are enforcers who have been like, who've made money and like had good careers in hockey. So if he'd maybe channeled that and controlled it and just been a bit more strategic with his violence, I think maybe he'd have had a better career.
I think I agree with that. And I think I honestly, and this is probably just from stopping drinking myself and self-reflecting, but I think the overuse of alcohol to cope with probably concussion issues and whatever fucked you up as a kid causes you to behave that sort of way as you try to deal with your shit when you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I think any crutch that you have that stops you or helps you, like people will say that it helps them cope with their issues, it is just that, like you are putting a band-aid over, you know, a serious wound. And actually what you need to do is do a lot of self-reflection, do a lot of introspection, talk to people, not just professionals in therapy, which I highly recommend you do. Talk to doctors, talk to your family and friends, and get different perspectives on it. Look into maybe getting medication if you need it, you know, whether that be for depression or maybe, you know, other behavior patterns or diagnoses that you can get. But actually, if you do have a serious issue that is affecting the way you behave in your life and your job, then, you know, look into it. That might be a good thing to actually help you get through. I will say that, you know, fortunately, this guy didn't kill anyone, because I feel like at a certain point in this story, we were heading towards and he left him face down behind in the snow, and the guy later died. Like, I feel like we were one story away from that.
Very well could have happened, but it just didn't.
I know, and I feel like that's more down to sheer luck, really, than anything. Not like he like, oh, I knocked him out and then I put him in the recovery position, so at least he was able to breathe properly. No, none of that. He just fucking left the guy face down in the street. So he didn't kill anyone, but man, he didn't seem like he did himself any favors, and he did not. I would not want to be on the wrong side of this guy. So I am going to go, I think 80.
That seems good.
Yeah, I feel like a solid 80, purely because of the huge, like, he had a lot of potential and he blew it, didn't really make any money, and he's ended up in prison and jail multiple times, and then just doing that stuff with the judge. Like, what are you doing, man? Shut your mouth. Let your lawyer speak for you. So, yeah, there's a lot of, it's another wasted potential kind of thing, but also just kind of sad, because I don't like seeing that happen to people. I don't like seeing them go down a path in life where, you know, there's only really one result, which is sadness and misery, when actually they have a lot more to contribute to society and can be bigger and better than where they are. But yeah, what was his name? Link
Gaetz.
Link Gaetz. Great name. Really great name.
Yeah.
Hockey's scariest player. That is a really fascinating story and sad in so many ways. But
yeah, he looks exactly like his name sounds too. Like, so
like a giant, scary human being. So Link Gaetz, welcome to the Rogues Gallery. You did all right though. 80 isn't the worst score, especially recently. We've had some big scores recently. So speaking of, I want to say wasted potential, I want to talk now about my guy. And again, it is another guy. So I'd like to talk to you today in this episode about Jeremy Thorpe, a man of incredible passion and incredible schemes. So there's going to be like really big peaks and valleys in this guy's life, because it's like so many weird things about this guy, contradictory, but actually really interesting. But yeah, definitely got away with a lot of stuff. So John Jeremy Thorpe was born in South Kensington, London, on the 29th of April, 1929. Kensington is a very wealthy part of London. Kensington Palace, you know, that specific area. It is a very wealthy suburb of London. His father, John Henry Thorpe, was a lawyer and a politician who was the Conservative MP for Manchester Rusholme between 1919 and 1923. His mother, Ursula Norton Griffiths, 1903 to 1992, was the daughter of another Conservative MP, Sir John Norton Griffiths, widely known as Empire Jack because of his passion for imperialism. Yeah, lovely. So he's a Conservative. He's born into incredible affluence and privilege and connections with people in power from a very young age during the Great Depression. But he did not suffer during the Great Depression. His family did not suffer during the Great Depression. This young man had a very lucky, charm-filled childhood, because while other people around him were scrounging for scraps of coal or wood to heat their houses, he was living in one of the best area codes of all of London at a time when the rich got everything, really. So
thriving, not just surviving, this guy.
Yeah. And actually the connections and the power and the being surrounded with that from a young age, that's going to influence and shape him a lot going forwards. The Thorpe family claimed kinship with distant forebearers carrying the name, including Sir Robert Thorpe, who was briefly Lord Chancellor in 1372. So
a little bit ago.
Yeah, a little bit ago, 700 years ago. And Thomas Thorpe, who was Speaker of the House of Commons in 1453. Yeah.
So there's been some time since you guys were important.
Yeah, we've done a few. We've had a few parliaments. You know, it's been around for parliamentary democracy's been around for about 1,000 years. This is no big deal. Yeah.
So they're connected there then.
Well, they say they are. There's no direct evidence of any link between these figures and Jeremy Thorpe's family because, like, people have last names. And, like, you can have famous people with that same last name, and then someone in the family goes, yeah, we're related to that person. Well, actually, it's a lot of people with that name. Doesn't mean that you're related to them, you know? It's rich people who love being rich, but they also love more, you know, they love to make themselves sound more special than they actually are.
So, I got you. I wish I had a cooler last name so I could sound special.
Well, you know, some people try and claim to be more special by saying they have more money than they actually do so that they can get favorable loans. But actually, that's a lie that lands you in a bit of trouble. So,
you know, I heard it can do that.
Apparently so. Just so you know, I'm going to be doing Jeremy Thorpe voices throughout all this because he has a very specific sound to his voice, very distinctive. But also, if you see a picture of Jeremy Thorpe, he looks very much like Bela Lugosi. He looks like he's also tall. He's like 6'2", very gaunt in the face, deep set eyes, black hair. He looks like a fucking vampire. There's no two ways about it. He has the blackest eyes you will ever see. It's really weird. If you're gonna share it on the screen now, let me know.
I'm going for it. Trying to find it.
Have a look. So Jeremy was his parents' third child following two sisters. His upbringing was privileged and protected under the care of nannies and nursemaids until, in 1935, he began attending Wagner's Day School in Queensgate. Very privileged, paid thousands of pounds a year, even back then, to attend these schools. He became a proficient violinist and often performed at school concerts. Although John Henry Thorpe was no longer in Parliament, he'd maintained many of his political contacts and friendships, and leading politicians were regularly entertained at the Thorpe House. He's got, like, David Lloyd George, who was the prime minister during the First World War, just showing up at his house to hang out. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
It is cool. And I just wonder what that does to, like, a young child. Kind of like in this... Go on.
Well, you would think that you're pretty important if you've got those people popping by.
And the things you learn from them, the way they behave, the things you pick up from them, it's kind of odd to, I guess, have a lot of that around as a child because you start acting like an adult when actually you should be behaving like a kid. But anyway, among the strongest of these friendships was that of the Lloyd George family, which I've just mentioned. Ursula Thorpe was a close friend of the former Liberal Prime Minister's daughter, Meghan, who became Jeremy's godmother. The former Prime Minister, David Lloyd George, an occasional visitor, became Jeremy Thorpe's political hero and role model, and helped form his ambition for a political career in the Liberal Party. It's a shame he wasn't the politician David Lloyd George was. He's like the greatest Welsh politician of all time, and a real focus on championing social causes and helping poor people kind of better their lives and not have to struggle and eke out a living. But he was not really focused on that.
Not this guy.
To be fair, according to everyone in my family, I was always very mature for my age. I think a lot of people get that, but then there's like the precocious attitude of someone who is like, years ahead of their time in terms of the conversations they have. It's weird. Anyway, in January 1938, Jeremy went to Cot Hill House, a school in Oxfordshire that prepared boys for entry to Eton, the real seat of power in the UK. You go to Eton, there's a fair chance you're going to be prime minister at some point. Yeah. By summer of 1939, war looked likely, and the Thorpe family moved from London to the Surrey village of Limpshire, where Jeremy attended Hazelwood School. War began in September 1939, and in June 1940, with invasion threatening, the Thorpe children were sent to live with their American aunt, Kay Norton Griffiths, in Boston. So,
Baston.
he was shipped out to Baston. I believe you have a picture of Jeremy Thorpe there. Can we?
Yeah, is that him?
For the live audience? Let me see. I think that, yeah, that's Jeremy Thorpe. Yeah. I mean, that's a picture and a half. For those of you listening to this after the fact, he's not smiling. He's behind a desk in front of like dark veneered wood, papers all over the wall, probably with secrets and stuff. And he just looks, he looks, Hugo Weaving, very, very accurate. Yeah, he looks like he's about to either shout at you or eat you. Or both. Like, he does not look happy. And this is Jeremy Thorpe throughout his political career. He had a face like thunder all the time. And there's definitely an element of vampirism about him.
Yeah.
Dark, deep eyes, very into, and also, like I said, like quite wiry, tall. It's a blur. I thought you were zooming in on the secret documents there, like we're in
no, I was going for his scary eyes.
He's got the raised eyebrow of a young Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah,
it's really like it's raised the eyebrow. In September that year, Jeremy began at the Rectory School in Pomfret, Connecticut. So they've moved from Boston to Pomfret now. He remained there for 3 generally happy years. His main extracurricular task, he later recalled, was looking after the school's pigs, because schools had pigs.
Okay.
In Massachusetts at this time, apparently. So maybe it was a mascot. I don't know.
Still the 20th? The 20s? No, this is
1939, 1940 now. So yeah, he looks like he's about to. Yeah, that's kind of what he looks like. He's about to dig his hand into my chest and assimilate me into an exact copy of him. He does. My school has pigs. Your school has pigs. Wow.
You know what?
Okay.
I think our 4-H club had pigs. There
you go. And goats and even 2 llamas. Holy shit. So this is a more common thing than I realized. Man, I need to get out of the city more. Yeah. In 1943, it was thought safe for children to return home to England because Hitler had decided Russia was an important and sensible target to go after. And after the Battle of Britain, the Luftwaffe were basically done. They had no power in the air anymore. So, everyone came home. And John Henry used his political connections to secure for Jeremy a passage in the Royal Navy cruiser HMS Phoebe. So he's not just coming home on a steamliner. He's coming home on a fucking a Navy vessel. So... yeah, just talk to his friends in the Admiralty. Just get my kid on a fucking destroyer to be brought back to the UK. That's kind of crazy.
It's cool.
In the Navy,
did they dress him up like a soldier?
It would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Like, you've been looking after pigs this whole time.
Put some awards on him, make him look special.
He's a Tory and he's connected, so he's already got at least 1 rank above some of the privates that have come in, I'd imagine. Just like, oh, you're rich? Okay, you're a captain now. Thorpe started at Eton in September 1943. He proved an indifferent student. That's a bit like me. He lacked sporting aptitude because he was tall and gangly. And although superficially a rebel against conformity, his frequent toadying to authority earned him the nickname Oily Thorpe.
Oh,
nice. Yeah. This motherfucker is definitely a Tory. I know he loved the Liberal Party of the early 20th century, but fuck me, like, he is toadying up to everyone he can. So, Yeah.
Oh, you gotta love the Weasley ones.
You've got to love the weasels who think they're secretly rebels. He also annoyed his fellow students by parading his acquaintance with a range of famous and important people. He offended the school's traditionalists by resigning from the school's cadet force and shocked others by expressing his intention to marry Princess Margaret, then second in line to the British throne. Who the fuck does he think he is? You're not connected that well, mate. Jesus.
He just said he was going to do that.
I'm going to marry a princess. Fuck you guys.
Did he know her?
Yeah, I mean, he lived in Kensington. She'll have lived in Kensington Palace. There's a chance.
Did she like him? I mean, I guess it doesn't work that way.
He's a kid. He's boasting, isn't he? Like, I know royal people. I'm going to fucking marry one. Thorpe revealed little about his Eton years beyond his membership of the school's orchestra. What was this from Tessa? You've got to have goals. I'm going to fucking marry a princess. Oh, you're all below me. Liberal weasels are based. Huey Long tricked the KKK into voting for him. That's true. That's really dark. So we'll get to this guy. He is the ultimate liberal weasel in this sense. Thorpe revealed little about his Eton years beyond his membership of the school orchestra and his winning a cup for his violin playing, which I don't know. He wasn't very good. He was like Sherlock Holmes good. He was like, he can carry a tune. Okay. He briefly considered the possibility of a career as a professional violinist, but the call of politics was too strong. His time at Eton was marred, unfortunately, by the death of his father in 1944 at the age of 57.
Ooh,
man, yeah, that's
pretty early.
Yeah, that's very early. Despite being a shit student, Thorpe secured a place at Trinity College, Oxford, because connections. So
yeah, well, I mean, I guess.
Yeah,
legacy or something.
Yeah, like, oh, your father knows the Lloyd Georges. Yeah, you're in. That's not on merit. His family got him in. That's what it says here. One of the best universities in the world, and Trinity College itself was founded in 1555. So that's old. In September, he began 18 months of national service. The national service was a big thing after the war. My grandfather kind of did that as well as like fighting in the war as well, like to kind of help train people up. One of my grandfathers. The other one was part of the Navy and never wanted to go back to the Navy after his boat was sunk by the Germans and he was caught below decks. So he was like, not only am I not going anywhere near any military stuff again, I'm not going in the water. So
yeah,
that would do it for you.
Yeah, for me, like, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever either.
Move to the desert.
Yeah, I think, as far away from water as possible. I'm only drinking bourbon from now on. So he began his national service, which is supposed to be 18 months long, but within 6 weeks was discharged on medical grounds after collapsing while attempting an assault course. Oh, I seem to have been taken ill. May I have a rest for a while? Smart man.
Good God.
Kimberly's like, yeah, he doesn't belong there. He has no physical abilities. And he's, he's coddled, really. Like, he's a super spoiled rich kid. So it was probably a wise move for him. At his, sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say what you're saying. Yeah, it's probably smart, but still.
Good move.
I just pictured him fainting.
Oh my goodness, the safest. As his place at Oxford was unavailable until the following year, Thorpe worked temporarily as a preparatory school teacher before his admission to Trinity. Like, he's a fucking average student. How did he become a teacher? There's a joke there somewhere, I'd imagine.
Those that can't learn teach?
Yeah, and those that can't teach PE.
Is that what he taught?
No.
Oh, God.
He actually, so apparently he was teaching English, which I guess that makes sense. Like, you just got to get him to read and write. This is straightforward, man. If you want a spoiled British rich kid, Oswald Mosley. Oh, we are going to cover Oswald Mosley and his idiot son, who, man, that guy's responsible for the downfall of the News of the World newspaper. So yeah, we're going to cover Max Mosley in time as well, who has a literal Nazi fetish.
Ooh,
allegedly. Sorry, he's very lawyer happy. So from Thorpe was reading law at Oxford, but his primary interests at Oxford were political and social. From his earliest undergraduate days, he drew attention to himself by his flamboyant behavior. According to Thorpe's biographer, Michael Block, his pallid appearance, dark hair and eyes, and angular features gave him a Diabolonian air, which is a posh way of saying he looked like a fucking vampire, basically.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. He was very quick to seek political office, initially in the Oxford University Liberal Club, OLC, which, despite the doldrums affecting the Liberal Party nationally, was a thriving club with over 800 members. That's a lot around about this time.
So they all said he looked like a vampire.
Yeah.
And they were like, fuck it, let's put him in office.
Yeah, he looks scary and intimidating and like he might murder someone. Let's give him more political power.
It's just back in the day when they believed in vampires more or less. And
this is
still put him in charge.
Not too far removed from fucking the Victorian era where the occult was a big part of life, and they're like, this guy looks scary, let's give him some power. Thorpe was elected to the club's committee at the end of his first term. In November 1949, he became its president. Very quick rise. Outside of Oxford, Thorpe showed a genuine commitment to liberalism in his enthusiastic contributions to the party's national election campaigns, and on reaching his 21st birthday in April 1950, applied to have his name added to the party's list of possible parliamentary candidates. This guy wants power. He's 21. He wants in now. That's think Thorpe was too. Jack the Ripper? That is quick. I don't think he's Jack the Ripper, but maybe his dad was. You never know. I'm convinced that a Tory was Jack the Ripper. I'm just convinced of it. In need of a paid occupation while he chased a political career, Thorpe opted for the law, and in February 1954 was called to the bar in the Inner Temple, which is like a very exclusive London legal circle. Initially, he found it difficult to earn a living from his fees. He added another source of income and found it in television journalism. Thorpe was employed by Associated Rediffusion as such a weird name. First as chairman of science discussion program The Scientist Replies, and later as an interviewer on the station's major current affairs network This Week. He's completely underqualified for all of this shit, but because he sounds posh, he's getting the work. So
put him in charge of the science show. That'll work.
Yeah, put him in charge of the science show. Does he have a degree in science? No, Lord. What the fuck are you doing? He's not a scientist. Among various assignments for This Week, he traveled to Ghana in 1957 to cover the country's independence celebrations, and in 1958 he reported from Jordan on a plot to assassinate King Hussein. Thorpe was a skilled broadcaster, and in addition to his television work, he became a regular guest on the BBC radio program Any Questions. He is very charismatic. He doesn't use filler words ever when he's talking. He answers direct questions. He answers very carefully so that it's accessible to everyone who's listening. He's a really smart politician, and actually it's very difficult to find fault in his public appearances because he's such a good speaker, and that's because scary. He's been trained in it. Yeah, it is really scary. The command he has over the room is the reason why he gets away with a lot of the shit we'll talk about in a minute. In 1959, he was offered the post of chief commentator by Associate Rediffusion, but as a condition that he gave up his political candidacy, and he declined immediately. He just can't wait to be king. He sounds charismatic, but he doesn't look charismatic. No, he looks fucking terrifying. Thorpe's efforts in North Devon to try and become their political candidate came to fruition in October 1959 in the general election, when he won the seat with a majority of just 362 votes. That's out of tens of thousands.
It just squeaked by, huh?
Yeah, that's there would have been about 90, 100,000 people voting in that election, and he got in on 362 votes, which is crazy.
Now, do you think it was because they liked him or because they were scared of him?
Oh, we like you, Mr. Thorpe, but if we elect you to office, will you stop eating our children? Will you stop draining our livestock stock of their blood? So a bit of both. So North Devon, he wins against the Conservative opponent and all the other candidates, but he's also the Liberal Party's solitary member of Parliament gained in that election, which generally Harold Macmillan's Conservative government won. He was the only one that got in, and he got in on 362 votes. That shows how good of a politician he is, and makes him basically the front runner in the entire party, even over the leader of the Liberal Party at the time.
See, I wonder if the princess is looking at him right now.
Yeah, the princess is like, oh, this Thorpe guy, he's a bit of a dick, but man, he's charismatic. Kimberly here, he's very Lon Chaney looking. And Toastoid here, Thorpe has 13 copies of Machiavelli's The Prince in his house. I have a copy of that by my bedside. Machiavelli is a distinctly overrated person. He is a failed politician who wrote a toadying book to the new ruler who didn't let him in, and then just basically fucked his way through the countryside until he died a very pathetic death. So Machiavelli is a very overrated historical figure. That's scary. So on November the 10th, 1959, he made his maiden speech during a debate on the government's local employment bill. He highlighted poor communication as the principal reason for the lack of employment opportunities in North Devon and called for urgent government action. That's really good, getting people jobs. We like that. Thorpe was a diligent MP, active in promoting local issues, a new general hospital, which is really important because parts of the country, like around Devon and Cornwall, they're not a great road network there. It's a lot of country roads. So you need a good general hospital there because it's a spread out population, you know? So
like,
trying to think of an equivalent. Think of like isolated communities. You think of like the Ozarks. So you'll get pockets of populations, like, and really poor road connections. There's maybe one motorway, like a highway throughout that part of the country, and then it's a lot of like A roads, B roads. Not super. Like if you want to get from Cornwall to London, it takes as long, which is like maybe 150 miles. It takes as long as it takes to get from like London to Edinburgh, which is like 350 miles. So really poorly connected.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Thorpe was a diligent MP, promoting local issues, a new general hospital, a link road to the Exeter-Taunton motorway, and campaigned successfully to save Barnston to Exeter railway line from the Beeching Axe. So a bunch of railway lines were cut around this time, and he managed to save one, which is really, really important for the local population.
Doing a bunch of good things.
He's doing really good things, and actually, his broader stuff, we've got to remember this guy was raised in incredible affluence, and he's a Tory through and through, except he's not, you know, he's working for the Liberals, but he's a Tory, really. But actually, broader questions, he made no secret of being anti-hanging, because hanging was still a thing at this time. He wanted to get rid of capital murder. He was pro-immigrant, and he was pro-Europe opinions. And all of this stuff was not shared by his constituents. The constituents were anti-immigration, they were anti-Europe, but he was like, no, this is the best for our country. This will make us better.
Then what happened?
He won because he was right. He's one of a group of people around about this time. This is around about the time, early 60s now, where a lot of things are becoming made illegal and legal in the UK. Hanging stops being a thing. We stop killing people for crimes. We decriminalized homosexuality and abortion around about this time. That was done by a Labour MP. A hugely unpopular decision at the time. The reason he did it, and they said, why have you done this? No one wants this. And he said, it's the right thing to do. And he was right. So he didn't have a mandate. He just did it.
How did this Thorpe guy, he sounds like he's starting off really good. Like he's doing.
Yeah.
How did he end up on the show here? What happens here?
Okay. So when we cover British politics, there's like a lot, like these articles about them and the LinkedIn pages. This is like 20-30 pages. I've tried to cut out as much as possible, so I'm showing you his political rise. We're about to get into his fall in a minute. I would like to start I would start to like this guy, but I know what show I'm listening to. You know us, you know where this is going, Kimberly. So on broader questions, so he's pro-immigrant, pro-Europe, anti-hanging. he championed freedom from colonial and minority rule. So he wanted places like the Caribbean holdings, islands, and like Canada and Australia. He wanted them to become, independent, which that's like a hugely, and his uncle's like all about empire. So he's completely gone against the family line here. He also was an outspoken opponent of regimes he considered completely oppressive and ridiculous, such as the apartheid regime in South Africa and the short-lived Federation of Rhodesia. This guy is really on the ball with the right stuff.
Yeah.
It's scary how, and to say he came from privilege, never had to struggle for anything. He's championing exactly the right things: employment, healthcare, local community connections, better road networks, pro-choice, kind of, anti, government-backed murder. It's all really good.
Is he bullshitting?
No, he genuinely believed this. This is the shocking thing. He believed all of this true right the way through to the end of his life. He wasn't doing it for point scoring because it made him really unpopular. But he saw the future and he was like, this is what we need to do to make our country better. And he was right.
Okay.
But here we go. He was also noted for his verve and wit when in 1962, after a series of by-election disasters, Macmillan sacked a third of his cabinet. Thorpe reported an inversion. Thorpe's reported comment was an inversion of the biblical verse John 15:13, which he said, "Was greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his friends for his own life." So that's an inversion of he lay down his life for his friends. Gotcha. He just turned it on its head. That's pretty good. Like, he's quoting the fucking Bible. He's championing good causes and trying to improve the lives of his constituents. Exactly what a politician should do. And also, he's charismatic in the right way. He's not a showman. He's not doing it like point scoring. He's like, I will hold my own in interviews so that you understand my position. And that's exactly what politicians should do. They're statesmen. They should be explaining why they're making the choices they're doing, and they should do it in a way that everyone can understand. Not, oh, look at this person. Oh, I'm going to grab him by the pussy. You like that? Not the kind of politician you want. That's an arsehole.
Yeah.
So let's get to why he's on this show now. Jeremy Thorpe's homosexual activities from time to time came to the attention of authorities and were investigated by the police. Homosexuality was only decriminalized in the UK in 1967. So he's been gay his whole life. By 1967, he's in his 40s, late 40s, in fact. Information was added to his MI5 file.
Oh, shit.
The fucking secret service, the CIA of this country are investigating him. But in no case was action taken against him, probably because he's part of that segment of British society that they never get charged with anything. And even if they do, nothing ever comes of it. It's very quiet and hush-hush. He's part of a secret part of society that is so wealthy and established that they can never get taken down, really.
Right.
Unless they want to. So they just disappear like Lord Lucan after you've killed your nanny. In 1971, he survived a party inquiry after a complaint against him by Norman Scott, a riding instructor and would-be model. Scott maintained that in the early 60s, he had been in a sexual relationship with Thorpe, who had subsequently mistreated him. The inquiry dismissed the allegations, but the danger represented by Scott continued to preoccupy Thorpe, who, according to his confidant, David Holmes, felt he would never be safe with that man around. That's ominous.
Little bit. Clean up some loose ends there.
Scott, known then as Norman Josephy, had first met Thorpe early in 1961 when the former was a 20-year-old groom for horses working for one of Thorpe's wealthy friends. The initial meeting was brief, but nearly a year later, Scott, by then in London and destitute, called at the House of Commons to ask the MP for help. Thorpe later acknowledged that a friendship had developed, but denied any physical relationship. Scott claimed that he had been seduced by Thorpe on the night following the Commons meeting. Okay. It's illegal at the time. Over the following years, Thorpe made numerous attempts to help Scott find accommodation and work, but Scott became increasingly resentful towards Thorpe, threatening him with exposure, which isn't nice or smart. Like, what are you fucking thinking? This is a powerful man at this point in his political career. You know, he's been in politics for a very long time. His family have been around it his whole time. He knows everyone, including police. Like, what are you doing?
Is he playing for money? Is that what he's going after?
I think he might be. I think he's so destitute and desperate. London in the 60s wasn't all like Beatles and like amazing fashion and, you know, or opportunity. Like, there was a lot of poverty, and slum landlords were really bad around this time, like disgusting conditions that people lived in. So Jeremy Thorpe was struggling. He had leverage, and I think he tried to use it. So, you know, maybe.
Gotcha. So it wasn't all just go-go boots and mods and Vespa scooters and shit then?
No, that's what that my parents' generation would have you believe. But no, it was destitution and racism. In 1965, Thorpe asked his parliamentary colleague Peter Bessel to help him resolve the problem. Bessel met Scott and warned him that his threats against Thorpe might be considered blackmail. He offered to help Scott. I mean, they are. There's no two ways about it. He offered to help Scott obtain a new national insurance card, the lack of which had been a long-running source of irritation. So, quick explanation of national insurance. National insurance is what everyone in the UK who works pays. It's kind of like a tax on top of a tax. So you pay your income tax, that's taken directly out at source. Then you pay your national insurance. Now, my national insurance per month, it might be like maybe 30, 40 pounds, something like that, maybe 48 pounds, depending. I haven't really looked at my pay packet in a while, but it's about 30, 40 pounds. That pays for the police, all of my healthcare, that pays for garbage disposal, that pays for the fire service, that pays for the roads, pretty much anything. I'm trying to think. I pay a separate thing for council tax, so that probably covers the bins, actually. But, you know, the national insurance, though, pays for all of the healthcare and a bunch of other services that the government provides. Everyone pays it. No one really misses it. It's not like a massive tax. I mean, like £400 out of the year so that you get free healthcare. It doesn't really get much better than that, really. So, you know, and it's taken out at source, so you don't miss it. If like, oh, well, oh, you've taken £40, like I would do something with that. No, you wouldn't. Like, you don't miss that shit. No. So,
well, they take way more than that every other week for my insurance, for the corporate insurance shit.
It's crazy, isn't it? But it works, and so people are trying to privatize the NHS, but I will take to the fucking streets before that happens. So Thorpe now has a new national insurance card, which means that he has access to all of this stuff and can also, you know, if you're trying to apply for a job and you need to get paid, you know, part of that is you have to give someone your national insurance number so that they can pay your national insurance as part of your wage packet. This actually quietened, the matter for a while, but within a year, Scott came calling again. With Thorpe's agreement, Bessel began paying Scott a retainer of £5 a week, supposedly compensation for the welfare benefits that Scott had been unable to obtain because of his missing card. £5 a week was a lot of money. You know, we're talking like £250, but in today's money, that's quite a lot of money to be paid to keep your fucking mouth shut. Basically,
it's a car payment these days.
Pretty much, yeah, or a mortgage payment if you're really lucky. Bessel later stated that by 1968, Thorpe was considering ways in which Scott might be permanently silenced. He thought David Holmes might organize this. Holmes had been best man at Thorpe's wedding and was completely loyal to him. This is beginning to sound like House of Cards. Right now.
A little bit, huh?
Yeah. When Scott unexpectedly married in 1968, it appeared that this problem might be over. But by 1970, the marriage ended because he's gay. And that's a problem.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it in a marriage. Early in 1971, Scott moved to the village of Talabont in North Wales, which is actually not far from where I used to live, where he befriended a widow, Gwyn Parry Jones, to whom he recounted his tale of ill treatment at the hands of Thorpe. She passed the information on to Emlyn Hewson, who was an MP for the adjoining Welsh constituency. Hewson precipitated the party inquiry, which cleared Thorpe of wrongdoing. After Parry Jones's death the following year, Scott fell into a depression, and for a while was quiet. In time, he began to tell his story to anyone who would listen. By 1974, Thorpe, at the crest of the Liberal revival, was terrified of exposure and that might lose him the Liberal leadership. It's happening. As Dominic Sambrook observes in the History of the Times, the stakes had never been higher. Silencing Scott had never been more urgent. Jesus Christ.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Over the years, Scott made several attempts to publicize his story, but no newspaper was interested. The satirical magazine Private Eye decided in late 1972 that the story was defamatory, unprovable, and above all was 10 years old. So it's defamatory and old news? So surely it can't be both. Like, either it's defamatory or it's true, but it's old, so we're not going to publish it. Like,
it's old satire. It's old. Like, it's an old Onion article. Damn it!
It is. It's an old Onion article that doesn't hold any weight anymore. But also, it's a lie. From late 1974, Holmes took the lead in the furthering plans to silence Scott. Through various intermediaries, he found Andrew Newton, an airline pilot who said he would dispose of Scott for a fee of £5,000 to £10,000, which is £45,000 to £90,000 today, so about $100,000, something like that.
Does he throw him off a plane?
Oh, that would be cool. No, nothing like that. No. Meanwhile, Thorpe procured £20,000 from Sir Jack Haywood, the Bahamas-based millionaire businessman and owner of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club, which is the city I live in. So, and Sir Jack is like a legend around here. He's like, because he was, again, another guy who was very invested in helping people out of poverty, in making the football club the center of the community. And it's a great stadium. It's like 35,000 all-seater. It's got brilliant atmosphere, great facilities there. It's really modernized. And this is all thanks to this one guy. He had no idea that this £20,000 that he's lending Thorpe was being used to assassinate someone. He thought it was to help him with re-election.
Would you be mad if your friend was like, hey, can I borrow 20 grand? And then you found out later it was to like off somebody?
First of all, my friends would know that I tell them to fuck off because I'm not giving you 20 grand. But I feel like I'd know, like if your friend comes to you and they're like, listen, I need 20 grand and I can't have you asking any questions. Or even if they're like, yeah, look, I need 20 grand because I need to do this thing. Like, listen, that fucking person you've been talking about offing for the last like 5-6 years, I kind of feel like you're going to hire someone to murder them. No. That would cost way more than 20 grand. Wait, aren't you meeting like 5 other people after me today? Can I have it?
A board of directors for the murder game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'll be 1/5 share in this murder plot. Haywood had previously donated to the Liberal Party, stating that this was to cover election expenses incurred during 1974. So it's perfectly normal. He didn't know what was going on. He's clear of this. He just unfortunately happened to be involved. Thorpe arranged for these funds to be secretly funded to Holmes rather than the party. He later denied that this money had been used to pay Newton or anyone else as part of a conspiracy, even though it clearly had. In October 1975, Newton had made a bungled attempt to shoot Scott that resulted in the killing of Scott's Great Dane. Boo! Fuck you,
killed his dog?
Killed his Great Dane. Bastard. Like, that's that's it. You're done now. You could kill 1 million like Scots, and I would be. There's something there. You fucking shot a dog, you asshole.
Yeah,
Fuck
what did the dog do? The dog wasn't blackmailing him.
No, it was just being adorable and stupid and large because it's a great day.
Its own business and
yeah.
crapping on the sidewalk, probably.
Maybe shitting indoors occasionally and getting told off for it. But it's a Great Dane. Probably, yeah. It's just so.
Wonder if it was named Clifford.
That would make it even sadder. Don't give it a name. Don't make it an actual thing now. Don't make it a person. Oh, that's so sad. So Newton was arrested on charges of possession of a firearm, which is a big deal even today, but especially back then, with the intent to endanger life. Yet the press didn't say a thing, possibly awaiting the bigger story that they hoped would break, about the gay politician who tried to have someone killed to silence them about a gay affair, which was still a big shocking thing at the time. Their reticence ended in January 1976 when Scott, in court on a minor social security fraud charge, claimed that he was being hounded because of his previous sexual relationship with Thorpe. This statement, made in court and thus protected from the libel laws, was widely reported. Very smart move by Norman Scott there.
Is it like the under oath thing? So they
under
can't...
oath, yeah. You can either be done for perjury or it's true, basically. So you can't be sued for libel of a statement made in court. You can only be found guilty of perjury, which is like, for something like that, you're not getting a huge sentence. Like, that's not like I've concealed evidence. That's just like you said something bad against someone, fortnight in jail, really. On January the 29th, the Department of Trade published its report into the collapse of the London and Country Securities. The report criticized Thorpe's failure to investigate the true nature of the company being involved himself. A cautionary tale for any leading politician. Cautionary tale. I wonder where some of that money went from this company. Thorpe had received some relief when his former colleague Peter Bassel, who had resigned from from Parliament and relocated to California to escape from a string of business failures, re-emerged in early February after discovery by the Daily Mail. Bassel gave muddled accounts of his involvement with Scott, but insisted that his former chief was innocent of any wrongdoing. On the 16th of March 1976, Newton's trial began at Exeter Crown Court, where Scott repeated his allegations against Thorpe, despite the efforts of the prosecution lawyers to silence him, not counter his argument, tell him to shut the fuck up. That's not a good look, guys.
Yeah. Shh. No.
Stop it.
I'm not going to discredit you.
Stop saying it. It's not true. Shut the fuck up. Newton was found guilty and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, but did not incriminate Thorpe because he's loyal and now quite wealthy, because he's been given shitloads of money. The erosion of public support for the Liberal Party continued, with several poor by-election results in March, with the former leader Grimmond attributed to increasing lack of confidence in Thorpe, and the party looked bad as a result of this, this secretly gay man trying to kill people. Not a good look.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Well, see now, God, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Like it sucks because he was doing such good things there and he had good ideas, and it was like, now you made everybody with good ideas look bad to people that want to point out that whatever.
Yeah, you've got good policies, but are you going to try and murder some gay lover? Like, it's an argument that blemishes the entire party. You're right. And
well, it's going to make people say, you see those people?
Yeah, we can't trust them. Those ones trying to make our lives better, you can't trust them. One of them had an affair. Yeah. On the 14th of March, the Sunday Times printed Thorpe's answer to Scott's allegations under the heading, The Lies of Norman Scott. Nevertheless, many of the party's senior figures now felt that Thorpe should resign. He's got the press on side. It's shocking. Thorpe's problems multiplied when Bassel, alarmed by his own position, confessed to the Daily Mail on the 6th of May that in his earlier statements he had lied to protect his former leader. You are fucked, mate. Absolutely.
Got him to flip, huh?
Yeah. and it would be for a newspaper. He's doing it for money, probably. Although Scott was threatening to publish personal letters as well from Thorpe to forestall him, arranged for the Sunday Times to print 2 letters from 1961. So he's had an offer from the newspapers as well. So the Sunday Times have flipped on him as well. Although these did not conclusively indicate wrongdoing, their tone indicated that Thorpe had not been frank about the true nature of his friendship with Scott. On the 10th of May 1976, amid rising criticism, Thorpe resigned the party leadership, convinced that a fixed determination to destroy the leader could itself result in the destruction of the party. Mate, this is your fault. Thorpe's resignation brought him a period of temporary calm. The new Liberal leader, David Steele, made him party spokesman on foreign affairs with responsibility for European issues, which is actually a smart appointment because he's like very much into European matters, but also not so smart because he's probably going to face trial for attempted murder. Not so good. Not great.
I guess I just don't understand how people that that try to have people killed get to just keep doing stuff.
Because they're rich.
I could say the wrong thing and get fired.
I know. How crazy
I try to have
is
somebody
that?
killed and accidentally get their dog. I don't get to keep my job and just get a different assignment.
No, it's like, yeah, you go over here. It's fine. We've all done that. Yeah, boys will be boys, right?
We're gonna move you to marketing. Sorry.
Yeah, could you imagine? So Thorpe's relatively peaceful interlude ended in October 1977 when Newton, released from prison, sold his story to the London Evening News. Newton's claim that he had been paid by a leading Liberal to kill Scott caused a sensation and led to a prolonged police investigation. Throughout this period, Thorpe endeavoured to continue his public life in and out of Parliament. The House of Commons on the 1st of August 1978, when it appeared certain to face he would face criminal charges, he asked the Attorney General what sum of capital possessed by an applicant would prevent him from receiving legal aid. The next day, he made his speech in the House of Lords on a debate on Rhodesia. He's saying, how much money am I allowed to have so that I don't have to pay for my own legal defense? Legal aid is a thing in the UK. It's not so much a thing anymore, unfortunately. But basically, if you have no savings and you don't earn anything, you just get free representation in everything. Okay. Completely free.
Like, we got that here too. It just sucks.
Yeah, it sucks here now as well because that's gone. You don't get free anything. You just have to pay a couple of grand. But like, that's a lot of money to people who have nothing, Yeah.
So, well, I mean, here you get the lawyer. You just go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. You just sit and wait. We don't get that. We just get released on bail. On 4th of August, Thorpe, along with Holmes and two of Holmes's associates, were charged with conspiracy to murder Scott. Thorpe was additionally charged with incitement to murder on the basis of his alleged 1968 discussion with Bessel and Holmes. After being released on bail, Thorpe declared his innocence and determination to refute the charges. Although he remained an MP for North Devon, he withdrew almost completely from public life, except for a brief theatrical appearance at the Liberals' 1978 annual assembly on the 14th of September. He's doing his fucking Kevin Spacey Christmas message, like, I'll fucking get all of you, you bastards, like that sort of thing that he did. And what are you doing? Much to the annoyance of the party leaders who had asked him to stay away, he can't help himself.
Just shows up anyway.
Just shows up and is like, well, maybe I did do the murder. Like, what are you doing? We don't need this now. We're fucked because of you. This woman called Thatcher is on the horizon. What are you doing? Yeah. So the court heard evidence of a conspiracy from Scott, Newton, and Bessel. It also learned that Bessel was being paid £50,000, huge sum of money, by the Sunday Telegraph for his story. That's a lot of money. In November 1978, Thorpe, Holmes, and two of the latter's business acquaintance, John Le Messier, a carpet salesman, not to be confused with the actor of the same name, and George Deacon appeared before Magistrates' Court at Minehead in Somerset. Sorry, this is my throat. In a committal hearing to determine whether they should stand trial, and they did. I skipped a whole paragraph there. At the conclusion, the four defendants were committed for trial at the Old Bailey, and it's a big deal. That's a huge court that was set to begin on the 30th of April 1979. But when in March the government fell and a general election was called on the 3rd of May, the trial was postponed until the 8th of May. So that's like a few days break. I don't think that's much of a thing. In results from that election, he got absolutely fucking destroyed, Jeremy Thorpe, and that was pretty much the end. Margaret Thatcher came to power and basically decided to fuck anyone outside of London to death. Like, I'm going to centralize everything around London. Anyone that has anything in their economy based on something that isn't finances, you are done.
Good deal.
Any trade unionists, any like local community stuff, any funding for minorities or like anything like that, completely cut. So cheers, Thatcher, you killed the country. The trial, which lasted for 6 weeks, began on the 8th of May 1979 before Justice Cantley. Thorpe was defended by George Carman. Carman quickly undermined Bessel's credibility by revealing that he had significant interest in Thorpe's conviction. In the event of an acquittal, Bessel would only receive half of the fee the newspaper had offered him.
Oh.
You sneaky fucker.
Ooh. So he's getting paid for a conviction there too, huh?
Basically, if this guy goes down, you get twice as much money.
That would give you incentive to lie.
It would give you incentive to lie. The problem is that there's truth here, and he's going to do everything he can to make sure that truth is as big as possible, and that could be considered perjury. So,
yes,
it's a dangerous line to cross. Yeah. During his cross-examination of Scott on the 22nd of May, Carman asked, you knew Jeremy Thorpe to be of a homosexual tendency in 1961. A man of homosexual tendency, he tends towards the homosexual. That's the most English fucking statement I've ever heard in my life. Did you know who tended towards the homosexual? And like, well, yeah, he's clearly gay. The oblique admission of his client's sexuality was a stratagem to prevent the prosecution from calling witnesses who would testify to Thorpe's sex life to basically make him look worse. Smart.
Okay.
Really. Get that out of the way. They have to realign all of their strategies, and all of a sudden you have to focus on the people that are telling the stories against Jeremy Thorpe, and some of them look dodgy as fuck because of these newspaper money offers.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
It's not a good look. So nevertheless, Carman insisted there was no reliable evidence of any physical sexual relationship between Thorpe and Scott, whom Carman dismissed as the inveterate liar, social climber, and scrounger. So not nice names, really.
He's a gold digger.
Basically, yeah, that's what they're calling him. And also they're like, it's basically another way of saying, you fucking peasant, you do not belong here. Yeah. Following weeks in which the court had heard prosecution evidence from the committal hearings, the defense opened. Deakin testified that although he introduced Newton to Holmes, he had thought that this was to help with a blackmailer. He knew nothing of a conspiracy to kill, which that's a smart defense, because who's going to say to the opposite? And actually, there was blackmail involved. So,
and to be fair, it was for the blackmailer.
It was for the blackmailer. So, Deakin was the only defendant to testify. Thorpe and the others chose to remain silent and call no witnesses on the basis that the testimonies of Bessel, Scott, and Newton had failed to make the prosecution's case, which the cast that had been the doubt that had been cast on them about the newspaper payments, and also Scott being, blackmailing people, and Bessel and Newton having changed their testimony a few times. It's like there's a lot of doubt there.
Yeah.
So,
well, it seems like it for sure.
Pretty much. Although he definitely did it.
There's no
two ways about it. Yeah.
I mean, his defense did a good job, is what I mean. It seems like
a very good job. They picked the parts that were going to make them the witnesses look like shit, and it worked. On the 18th of June, following closing speeches from prosecution and defense counsel, the judge began his summing up. While emphasizing Thorpe's distinguished public record, he was scathing about the principal prosecution witness. Bessel was a humbug, FYI humbug, which is a Dickensian word. Go on.
I just learned some words, those words there.
Yeah.
I was watching that new show, Bodies, and I learned stuff.
Yeah,
which is a good show for everybody. Watch that show.
Yeah, watch Bodies. That is a cracking show. Humbug means a deceptive or false, for anyone wondering what Scrooge was screaming about in the Christmas Carol. Scott was a fraud, a sponger, a whiner, and a parasite. This is the judge.
Oh.
And this is like, the jury is about to come to a verdict, and the judge has just called the main prosecution witness and the man who's alleging that he was, someone shot his fucking Great Dane in front of him. Someone tried to kill him. Apparently, he's a fraud, a sponger, a whiner, and a parasite, because, of course, he could still be telling the truth, but, he's a fucking parasite. So,
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Judge. Newton was determined. Newton was determined to milk the case as hard as he can. On the 20th of June, the jury retired. They returned 2 days later and acquitted the 4 defendants on all 4 charges, because, of course, they did.
Oh.
In a brief public statement, Thorpe said that he considered the verdict a complete vindication. It's not. Scott said he was unsurprised by the outcome, but was upset by the aspersions on his character made by the judge from the safety of the bench. Fucking step outside and say that shit, you bitch.
Catch me outside.
Catch me outside, you wig-wearing bitch. Yeah, that's what I got from that. It's like, he's safe behind his big fucking table, but he steps outside with me and I'll set my new Great Dane on him. Following his acquittal, Thorpe announced that he had proposed to attend the 1979 Liberal Assembly and the forthcoming Liberal International Congress in Canada. His failure to explain himself under oath was widely criticized in the press, and the public perception was that he was fortunate to have gotten off. I mean, yeah, he was. Because he did that shit,
So the guy didn't even get in trouble for shooting the dog?
Nothing. Oh, no, he served 2 years for that, because he was caught in possession of a gun with an intent to kill. But the guy that paid him,
nothing.
Probably, maybe he didn't. Reluctantly, Thorpe accepted that there was no future role for him in the Liberal Party, and informed the North Devon Association that he would not seek to fight the seat again. Steele expressed the hope that Thorpe would, after a suitable period of rest and recuperation, like he's had the flu, find many avenues where his great talents may be used. In the search for a new career, Thorpe applied unsuccessfully for the posts of administrator of the Aylesbury Festival and race relations advisor to the Greater London Council. Yeah, maybe not, mate. His attempts to restart his career in television also came to nothing, and in February 1982, it was announced that he was to become the director of the British section of Amnesty International, but the appointment was opposed by tens of thousands of people and many of the organization's membership, and he withdrew the post the following month from the controversy.
Was it because of the murdery thing?
I think it probably was. Amnesty International that's trying to bring about peace around the world, and this man tried to have someone killed. It's not a great look, I think, and it makes you question the people that put him in that position in the first place.
Yeah,
so, yeah. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1979, but had to retire from public life when it started to become difficult to cope with everyday life in 1985. In 1999, Thorpe published an anecdotal memoir, In My Own Time, an anthology of his experiences in public life. In the book, he repeated the denial of any sexual relationship with Scott and maintained that the decision not to offer evidence was made to avoid to prolong the trial. I'm trying to save the public money, since it was clear the prosecution's case was shot through with lies, inaccuracies, and admissions. Whatever, mate. Thorpe's last public appearance was in 2009 at the unveiling of a bust of himself in the Grimwald Room at the House of Commons. I wonder if the plaque reads, "This man used his connections and high influence in society to get away with attempted murder, but doesn't he look like Bela Lugosi? Wiry motherfucker."
How do you
Yeah, we know.
I don't feel like I'm not a bad person, but I wasn't always the greatest of person. There's never going to be a bust of me anywhere.
No.
This guy tried to have somebody killed.
Basically, yeah. I mean, like, there's no... Okay, he's cleared of it, but he's OJ cleared of it. There's like... that shit happened. And he's got a bust. But then again, like, the amount of statues in this country, like the whole Rhodes Scholar thing? Is it Cecil Rhodes or Cyril Rhodes? Like, that guy was a slave owner and shit. And, there's a lot of people who've got, like, even like people like Gandhi, who, for all of his incredible work freeing the people of India and Pakistan, was kind of a bit rapey with very young women and kind of a weirdo. And, there's a lot of that. We have a lot of statues in this country to people who probably shouldn't have statues. I know that the statue of Margaret Thatcher that was put up in Grantham in her own town, that thing has been defaced every single week since it went up 2 years ago. The police have had to like have a special force that comes in and cleans it up once a week because people pelt it with eggs and spray graffiti on it and splash it with blood. So
it sucks too, because I think that if, like, I don't know, sometimes if some of these people would take credit for some of the shitty things that they did, and learn from it, maybe people wouldn't want to deface their statues. Maybe they would have a purpose for having the statue, and there'd be some education and shit involved.
Yeah, and there's something
instead of romantification. Sorry.
Yeah, there's also something to romanticizing. Yeah, there's something to be said for like no statues of people. There's an argument you can make there because nobody's perfect, and even the great people who absolutely deserve their statue, it's a weird thing. Like a plaque, I understand. I've been to Shakespeare's grave, and it's kind of amazing because it's not like cordoned off, it's not walled off, you don't have to pay 50 quid to go and see it. You can just walk up. There's William Shakespeare's grave. You have to pay for a lot of other shit in that town, but you do not have to pay to go and see his grave because it's on church grounds. And it's just a normal, modest grave. It's not like this giant mausoleum like Nicolas Cage's fucking pyramid in whatever it is, New Orleans. This is just a normal grave. And, I feel like that's enough. If you've done great public service, get a plaque, get a nice grave that celebrates your life. You don't need a giant fucking statue. You're dead. I know some people like to celebrate you, but Jesus.
Same thing with Waylon Jennings here in Mesa.
Yeah.
He's got just a nice little plot with his name on it.
Yeah. My favorite is...
anybody knows who that is, I imagine. Overseas.
I get that. Yeah. And actually, that's a really nice, modest way of celebrating someone. And there's a big thing about plaques on houses in the UK where, like, I don't know, like, this author lived here between these years. Like, oh, that's cool. That's all I need. I don't need a big fucking statue that pigeons shit on. Like, that's just a waste of brass. I think my favorite one was Jack Lemmon, won 3 Oscars or something like that. He was a very decorated actor, incredible performer, did basically everything. His gravestone just reads Jack Lemmon in. That's it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I know. And there's another one, Spike Milligan, who's a very famous British comedian, kind of pre-Monty Python comedian, hugely influential guy. His gravestone reads, "I told you I was sick."
That's a great one.
That's a great one. But I think Jack Lemmon in is just like, that's perfect as far as like, it's like he's that famous. That's all you need because he was a lead guy for 65 years or whatever. So,
dude, yeah, he's one of my favorites. I love Grumpy Old Man and The Odd Couple and all.
Yeah. And just like random roles, like he's randomly in JFK, where he gets the shit kicked out of him. This old Jack Lemmon guy, and like, The Odd Couple.
Glengarry Glen Ross is a good one.
Glengarry Glen Ross, he's so good in that. He's just this depressed old man who just can't make it anymore, but he can't give up because if he does, he's fucked. Oh, it's so heartbreaking. Yeah. So anyway, Jack Lemmon films aside, let's just finish off Jeremy Thorpe here. Jeremy Thorpe, thereafter, he was confined to his house, nursed by his second wife, Marion Stein, until she became too infirm to look after him. She died on the 6th of March, 2014. Thorpe survived for 9 months before dying of complications from Parkinson's disease on the 4th of December, 2014, at the age of 85. And that's the story of Jeremy Thorpe, who was a brilliant politician who also happened to try and have someone killed to keep them quiet about a gay affair.
Yeah, not the right way to handle that.
No. And I'd like to say power corrupts, but this is not someone who came from like humble beginnings. Like he wasn't a working class hero made good who then got corrupted by power. This man was surrounded by power from the second he was born, and
Yeah,
he knew to use it.
but the thing is it seems like though he kind of tried to want to use it for good, and it
Mm,
seemed like he was doing good things.
he was.
And then it kind of seems like an asshole tried to make something that didn't and shouldn't have mattered a
Yeah.
problem that led him to do desperate shit.
Basically, yeah. And actually, there were kind of apparently, because I did a lot of research into this, there were rumors about him doing the things that gay men at the time had to do to have relations with other men. They had to do things in public, sometimes in like less than ideal circumstances, but nothing really abusive as far as I can tell. But his paranoia took over, and really, okay, let's say Norman Scott, I think I would have just called his bluff. Just like, fine, publish it. Watch what happens. And it
Yeah.
did. Like, nobody tried. He just kept on trying and trying. And if he just like, when it became clear that Margaret Thatcher was going to come into power, and it's unlikely that the Liberals are going to, and they haven't since then ever come anywhere near power, except when they did a power sharing arrangement with the Tories for a few years, which was horrible. If he'd just been like, listen, I've been gay my whole life. I'm in my 50s now. My political career is probably winding down. I'm just going to come out and say it. If he'd just not tried to have this man killed and just been like, look, he blackmailed me because of my sexuality for years, and because it was criminal at the time, I had to go along with it. But listen, I'm gay. This is what happened, and I'm just going to come out now. And like, it would have been a huge watershed moment in British life, because someone at that level of political life coming out and saying they were gay in 1979, like that would have been groundbreaking. And
Oh yeah.
there were high profile gay people back when it was illegal, but like for a politician to come out and say that, it would have been change the whole view of that. So it's just sad that he went the other way. He went the
Yeah.
naturally wrong way to
And
go
I
with
think
that.
that's what is going to make me give him a higher score, is that
Sure.
instead of, and it's kind of shitty of me to give him this score, I think, because of this, but
Hmm.
instead of just taking that extra step and doing all the amazing things that he was
Yeah.
already doing,
Yeah.
and maybe just blowing the lid off of the thing and
Mhm.
making things amazing for a ton of other people way, way earlier than they ended up being, or
Yeah.
I mean, they're sliding back to now.
Yeah.
Um, he could have done great things earlier then, and maybe we wouldn't be
Yeah.
backsliding in some of the ways we are now.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and and he got a dog killed for no damn reason.
Yeah, like what the fuck, man? If you're gonna hire someone to do a job, get someone who knows how to handle a gun, for God's sake. You
Yeah.
know? Although I am glad that we're going back to the dog again. I am glad that the dog didn't have to witness its owner dying in front of it. Like, that's really horrible. But
Yeah.
yeah, just don't get dogs involved in murder schemes, please. If you really have to commit murder, leave animals and children out of it, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Such
And
bad advice, but yeah, please don't.
or don't get involved in murder.
Or just
That
don't
one.
kill.
Yeah. Um, but then I got to take some points off because of the whole um
Like
he
decent
or
politician.
no, decent politician, but he also came from money and still gave a shit. So
Yeah,
that's
which is
neat.
really rare.
Yeah. Like he had the power and the
Mhm.
money and still was like, we should do things because they're the right things to do,
Exactly. And like,
which is
instead of
awesome.
helping the people that were around me my whole life, the landed gentry and wealthy, I'm going to help people that need help, which is not happening with the Conservative Party in this day and age. They're just helping themselves.
And it's kind of funny that somebody didn't. I mean, it would have been bound to happen that somebody that was an effective politician would have had somebody try to blackmail him or have
Oh, yeah,
bad things come out anyway, I
of
guess.
course. Yeah.
Um, but I think because he tried to have somebody killed and he fell to the pressure and got a dog killed and then
Mm,
kind of was shady,
yeah.
I'm going to go with an 84 because a dog died.
Yeah, I definitely think it gets a higher score because a wonderful Great Dane. I urge you to give a welcoming Great Dane a cuddle because they're like tiny horses. They're really cool. Yeah, just like it's a lot of this is so unnecessary and so sad. A lot of this, again, through the ridiculous pressures of public life of not being openly gay, resulted in so much damage and harm being done to so many different people and lives in unnecessary ways. Imagine if, like, let's imagine post-war Britain when the NHS is founded. Let's imagine that wave of enthusiasm that washes over the country when people are moving to the UK for opportunities from like colonial places like, you know, the Caribbean and Canada and Australia, and people are moving to the UK. What if in that moment when we established the NHS, we established universal care for people and like pension changes and, you know, unemployment changes so that people could be looked after? What if we said, right, we're going to decriminalize homosexuality? Why are we still criminalizing people for something? Jeremy Thorpe would have been in his 20s. This would have been the perfect time for him to say, you know what, this is a new world. I can come out. And imagine the good he could have done with his political power and expertise in a situation where he didn't have to hide who he truly was. It's so sad.
The world would be a way better place if everybody could just be who they are, and people would just be okay with letting people be who they are.
I know. Just let people be.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, it's so hard.
There you go.
It's not hard. Just like let them live their lives. They're not harming anyone else. And it's not like a massive crime and, damaging so many other lives around them. Just let them be. You know?
To be fair, don't make it a fucking crime just because you don't like it either.
No, exactly. Like, if a crime is unfair, if a law is unfair, then yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I just wish that would have happened, and then we wouldn't have a situation like this, and a lot more. I generally feel like if homosexuality had been decriminalized before the mid 1960s, the world would have been a better place and a far more empathetic and accepting place for everyone, not just people from the LGBTQ community. You know,
I think so. Yeah, I think it would have been huge with the civil rights movement and everything else through then.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, so that's Jeremy Thorpe, the liberal politician who was a very, very successful politician in his day, but unfortunately had a dark secret, dark at the time, that cost him his political career. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Great show, guys. Thank you. It's kind of a sad one, but I think the story here with both of these is deal with your issues, because, you know, with Link and with Jeremy, both of them clearly had problems that they couldn't address, either because of unjust laws or because they just couldn't bring themselves to be introspective and deal with their issues. And actually, had somebody been there to help them, or had they reached out to someone for help, a lot of damage would have been stopped because of this idiocy, really. So yeah, so that's an 80 for Link and an 84 for Jeremy Thorpe. And yeah, I want to thank you guys for dropping by. I had a lot of fun kind of looking into the life. It was, I want to say that the life of Jeremy Thorpe was actually dramatized. It was turned into a drama by ITV, and it starred Hugh Grant as Jeremy Thorpe. And
really,
yes, really great performance by him as well, like frighteningly good. And it also starred Ben Whishaw as Norman Scott. Now, Ben Whishaw, you may not know if you're living in the US. If you're living outside the UK, you may not have heard the name, but you'll have definitely seen him in the James Bond films as the most recent Q. He was Q in all of the Daniel Craig films. And also he's the voice of Paddington Bear in the Paddington films. Yeah. So Paddington was nearly shot because he had a gay affair with a politician. No, don't mix those two up. That's not something that happened. Paddington likes sandwiches that are made with marmalade. He doesn't like blackmailing gay politicians. That's not that. Those two universes don't intersect at any point. So yeah, but I recommend it if you can get hold of that. I don't know where it would be internationally, but I can't remember what it's called. But it's about Jeremy Thorpe's life. It stars Hugh Grant and Ben Whishaw. It's a really, really good film. It's produced by Russell T Davies, who is the person who brought Doctor Who back.
Okay.
And that made that into a huge international success. And he also is an openly gay Welshman who produced a TV show called Queer as Folk, which was seen and adopted all over the world, and has produced a bunch of TV shows. And yeah, he's a really talented filmmaker, so I'd recommend you watch that.
I want to say I've heard of that one. Yeah,
I think probably, yeah, and I think it was made into an American version. He also, random thing about Russell T Davies, he started out making children's TV for like random episodes of this one show, and the BBC were like, we can't put this on there. This is a horror film, and you want this to go out at 3:30 p.m. to be watched by like 8-year-olds.
Well,
And
what was it?
It was just a random thing where like this terrifying headmaster was like stalking this child, and like the child was like, listen, this headmaster is threatening me, and the kids are like, no, he's just taking an interest, he's just looking out for you. But yeah, basically the kid thinks he's going to be kidnapped and eaten by this headmaster. It's really dark, and the BBC were like, maybe you should be making horror films. He's like, okay, I'll go away and make horror films. And they brought him back for Doctor Who, and he's perfect for that shit, like horror, sci-fi, time traveling stuff like that. Perfect for Russell T Davies, but kids TV maybe not. So yeah, maybe a bit too adult for that. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And Jeremy Thorpe's life is weird because generally British politicians, particularly around this time, are boring as fuck, but actually he's really interesting. So yeah,
it was a very interesting story for sure, and totally unexpected. I was like, where the hell is he going with this?
What could possibly be so bad that this excellent politician who's producing all of these life-changing, world-changing, future-focused policies, where could it all go wrong? And the answer was gay affair / attempted murder. So,
well, it was all attempted murder, and it got a dog instead. It's the only reason. Like, that's the gay affair and the borrowing money to do stuff. Not so much. The attempted murder and the dead dog is the whole score.
That's the whole thing right there.
And the missed opportunity of like changing the world for civil rights and gay rights. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like huge missed opportunity there. But that's kind of a wider thing that's just really quite sad. Yeah. So yeah, but I had a lot of fun researching it. Unfortunately, like you have to read through like, and he also represented this constituency, and there's like, okay, we've covered. Forget the politician stuff. Like, I don't care about him like opening a fucking community center in 1964 with his wife in front. Like, there's like a full like 3 pages of that. Like, I don't give a shit about that. Tell me about the attempted murder, please. That's why we're all here. So, you know, it's like no one's going to Jeremy Thorpe's fucking page to talk about like his political beliefs about this Rhodesian community or revolution. Like, they're going there for the attempted murder, let's be honest. So that's
give me the dirt,
give me the juicy details. So yeah, thank you all so much for hanging around. If you would like to interact with us and find out more about our show and help us pick really interesting topics, you can find us on Twitter by going to @GreatestIdiots, X, not Twitter, and going to Instagram, go to @History's Greatest Idiots. You can find us on YouTube, where most of our shows are. You can just look for History's Greatest Idiots. I think it's @History's Greatest Idiots now on YouTube. We're there. But if you want to find all of our videos and all of our scripts and behind the scenes stuff and interact with us directly, and also help us try and make this into a fully fledged show where we earn lots of money and we can actually live free and clear of the yoke of full-time employment, go to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots, where you'll get access to a bunch of behind the scenes stuff and be able to hang out and talk with us. And you know, you also get a gift, which if it goes wrong, we send you a homemade gift, like with Kimberly. Kimberly, your homemade gift is on its way. Thank you guys so much. This has been a wonderful show. This is we'll be back live next week. We were initially planning on doing 2 episodes last week, but my body told me no. So we'll be doing a show a week every week for a few weeks now, so that we can get ahead of ourselves and give ourselves a big long break over Christmas and New Year. Looking forward to that.
That'll be good.
That will be a very good thing for everyone involved. Thank you all so much. And we will see you again next weekend live, or in a couple of weeks when you're listening to this after the fact. Derek, would you like to say goodbye, please?
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. And we will see you all very soon. Take care. And thank you all so much. Bye now.